Welcome to the Underdog Pick'em Show on the LineStar YouTube channel. Alongside Tyler Wiemann, I'm Shannon Sommerville, and we've got your top 5 Pick'em picks on Underdog for Week 4 in the NFL. We are focusing on the Sunday games for our picks, and we've got some good ones for you. If you don't have Underdog Fantasy yet, make sure to download it. Use the promo code LineStar when you do to get a nice deposit match up to $1,000 in bonus cash. Make sure to use the promo code LineStar so you can get that deposit match. Plus, you'll also get 1 free month of LineStar as well, so take advantage of that deal while it lasts. And also, you can tail our picks if you'd like, and then add the special that's going on this week. It's Patrick Mahomes higher than 0.5 yards. So that's basically a gimme pick. So take advantage of that while you're at it as well. All right, let's get into some Week 4 games. We've got some good ones on the slate. Hopefully some more offense. We've starting to see a little bit more creeping out. What do you think so far of the slate of games that we've got on deck for Week 4?
There's definitely been a little more offense creeping out, but we have a ton of fairly low-scoring games this week. There's only a couple that are in the high 40s or 50s, but I think there are going to be a lot of close, fun games, entertaining ones to watch, even if they're not super high scoring.
All right. Well, with that being said, let's get into our picks. We're using the PropsAI tool on the LineStar app to help us find the best value, specifically on Underdog Fantasy. We have a filter specifically for Underdog that you can use to help you find the best value in the market on Underdog and find those best pick'em plays, basically comparing LineStar's projection to what's out there on Underdog. So make sure to check that out when you have a chance. Again, LineStarApp.com. And do us a huge favor before we dive into our picks. Make sure to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and comment below, because a comment also enters you into our Pick'em contest. If we go 5 for 5 on our picks, we are putting this on an entry ourselves and putting $10 on a flex entry on Underdog. So if we win, we're giving out the winnings, which is $100. So all you need to do, again, like this video, subscribe to the channel, comment below. You are in it to win it. Let's get after it. Week 4, here we go. And we're starting things off. Tyler, I would think that you'd be trolling me with these picks here because they're Alabama players to start things off. And it is Georgia-Alabama week. And that is how impartial of a host I am, to go against my Georgia Bulldog upbringing and giving you these unbiased picks. We're first starting things off with former Alabama running back Najee Harris, now on the Steelers, of course, but we're liking the higher here on 63.5 rushing yards. LineStar's projection is all the way at 76.1, so some good edge here for Harris. Averaging 70 rushing yards per game. He's been higher than that in all 3 games. And he's got a great matchup going up against the Colts, who ranked dead last in rush yards allowed to the running back position this year. Remember, Josh Jacobs had 151 week 2, Joe Mixon 159. Really the only one who didn't clear that was Roschon Johnson with the Bears, who had 30, but it's the Bears in that case. So I feel like that was just an anomaly. Listen, we're talking about a Colts defense that hasn't really been able to stop really good running backs. And Najee is a really good running back. And this Steelers offense is kind of predicated on a very balanced approach on offense, starting with the run. What do you think here for Najee?
This Colts defense can't stop anybody that can run the ball remotely well. The Bears cannot run the ball at all. DeAndre Swift has been awful. They're trying out Roschon now to run the ball. He was a little bit better, but they are just struggling so much to run the ball. I'm not that surprised they weren't able to get over even the Colts. But this Steelers team can run the ball. There's no Jaylen Warren in this game. Najee is going to get a ton of work. He's been over all 3 with Jaylen Warren there. Now he has him without it. And the Colts are 28th versus the RB1. According to our team defense tool, which is kind of like DVOA. It's just a slight different equation.
Yeah, but important that it takes into account, quality of opponent. A lot of times when we look at this stats, especially early in the season, and you're looking at a team that's given up so many rushing yards, sometimes you got to take it into context. Who are they facing? Have they faced good running backs? That kind of thing. So the defensive tool does just that on the LineStar app, so make sure to check that out. All right, let's move on to pick number 2. Another former Alabama player. Man, this one hurts, but he did win me some money last week. So how about Amari Cooper, higher than 50.5 receiving yards? LineStar's projection here, 64. 86 receiving yards against the Giants. He's actually the 4th most targeted wide receiver through the first 3 weeks, and we're liking him here again going up against the Raiders. Tyler, what do you think about Cooper's outlook for Week 4?
Look, he has 29 targets through 3 weeks. He got off to a slow start, 2 bad games, had a solid game last night or yesterday. Last night. I can't even talk right now. He had 86 yards and 2 touchdowns. He is in even a better spot this week than he was last week. He's averaging 33% more fantasy points in domes. While we only need receiving yards here, it still is beneficial to his yards total. And the Raiders, 31st versus the wide receiver one, according to our team defense tool. And now that we are, into the 4th week, we're starting to get enough data where that team defense tool actually does mean something. And that's why we are talking about it so much, so far, and we will for pretty much the remainder of the season.
And, one of the things I think people may be out on in terms of Amari Cooper is the fact that Deshaun Watson is still the quarterback and, it just hasn't looked
toast.
Good. But this is basically, this is a game where he has to pass the ball and he has to find Amari Cooper and take advantage of this spot. And I think regardless of who's throwing him the ball, Amari Cooper is still one of the most talented wide receivers in the game. He makes the most out of what he's going to get, and I like Cooper and his spot here. I wish Deshaun, played a little bit better. I was kind of high on him to start the season from fantasy perspective because I did think he had a higher ceiling. So I'm kind of hoping that they start to implement more of an offense that Deshaun Watson's a little bit more comfortable with and that he can get the ball downfield to guys like Cooper. So I think you could start to see some more adjustments on the offensive side of things to just try to get this thing turned around because right now it's a little bit of a mess.
Yeah, I hope they just go to Jameis Winston, but
and they could after this week,
to run this offense. But we're betting on talent here. Amari is one of the most talented wide receivers in the league, and this line is just low for a wide receiver one that's averaging almost 10 targets. He can get there, on 2 catches. So I like it.
Well, next up, let's move to another wide receiver who started the season really slow but had very poor quarterback play in Bryce Young. And then we saw Andy Dalton come in and Diontae Johnson. His stats went way up. So let's go Diontae Johnson, higher than 61.5 receiving yards this week. It should be noted that he is dealing with a groin injury. However, it should be all right for this week. But the Panthers in general are dealing with Adam Thielen, who is injured, and he'll be out this week. But Johnson had 122 receiving yards and a touchdown with Andy Dalton. So that just goes to show you Bryce Young was just not able to get it done. And actually, Johnson is tied for 11th in targets, but doesn't have a high catch rate. And that just kind of illustrates the point that he just was not getting quality passes from Bryce Young. And now he's got Andy Dalton, who's at least able to get it to him. And he's going up against the Bengals, who have allowed a catch on 75% of passes this season, the second highest rate in the league. You just saw Jaden Daniels torch the Bengals secondary. And while Andy Dalton, I don't know if he'll actually torch them, but he'll get Diontae Johnson the ball in this one, especially given the fact that he's one of the few pass catchers on this squad. What do you think?
He's definitely get the ball. One of the things that Diontae has always been very, very good at is getting targets. And we saw it last week. He had 14. They're going to go back to him a ton. Cincinnati Bengals are a slightly above average matchup for him. The game total's 47. They're going to be able to move the ball a little bit, and they got to target Diontae. With Adam Thielen out, it's him in the passing game, and then, Chuba Hubbard taking the running game and some dump offs, but Diontae is going to get his work, going to get plenty of targets to get over this.
I love to see it. Love to see a nice game from Johnson because he is on Shannon's Cooper Troopers. That is my team for fantasy football this year. So hopefully he has a nice game. Might put him in my flex spot, given the fact that we like him here for the higher than 61.5 receiving yards. So those are our top 3 picks from the LineStar App's PropsAI tool. You heard us mention the LineStar projection. So that's the 3 from PropsAI on the LineStar app. But now it is time for Tyler and I to give our best bets for Sunday's games. What do you got, Tyler?
I got to go back to Brandon Aiyuk, higher than 63.5. LineStar projections up to 77. Consensus projection is over. New England, while they are very stout versus the run, only allowing 69 per game on the ground, they're giving it up a little bit to the wide receiver, especially wide receiver one, who is ranked 23rd on our defensive matchup tool. We got no Debo, no CMC still. Kittle is questionable, and there was some breaking news just a little bit ago that he expects to play, but the targets are going to be there again. He had 10 targets last week. I expect that to be there again. And with Juwan Jennings having just such a breakout game last week, maybe not quite as much coverage is going to Aiyuk, and also Kittle being there will help take a little love away from that coverage too.
Yeah, I still like Brandon Aiyuk. In fact, Tyler, somebody dropped Brandon Aiyuk from their team in fantasy football, and I was a little bit shocked by that. Not really giving him a chance. You got to consider the fact that he was holding out for a contract, and he got his contract, so
Totally.
he was out. So sometimes with those guys that have the holdouts, it takes them a couple games just to get acclimated and back in the swing of things because they miss so many reps with that quarterback, and that is so important. So you might start to see him ramp up in terms of targets. He had a couple drops that was kind of uncharacteristic for him. So I really like Aiyuk to kind of have a bounce back game. I know facing some tougher coverage with New England, especially Christian Gonzalez is a pretty tough quarterback, but I think if anyone can engineer some sort of game plan to get Brandon Aiyuk more opportunity, it's definitely Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers offense. They're pretty good at that.
The other thing is that Brandon Ayuk's like separation scores have been really, really good so far this year. It's, he's just not fully up to speed yet, but those big games are coming.
They're coming. How about a big game for Breece Lightning? That's where I'm headed for my pick. We're going to the Jets and their running back Breece Hall, higher than 66.5 rushing yards. Breece Hall averaging 57 rush yards per game. However, you have to consider who they've faced this season. They've faced two teams in the top 5 in rush yards allowed, San Francisco and New England, both pretty good. Now he's facing a Denver Broncos team that is allowing 118 rush yards per game. That is 31st. Bucky Irving had 70, Najee 69, Kenneth Walker 103. So I absolutely think Breece Hall can crush this over 66.5 rushing yards. Remember last year? Some of you guys might not remember this, but he had 177 rush yards against Denver just last year. I think this is absolutely a spot where Breece Hall can have kind of a smash opportunity. I know his quarterback's a little different. Aaron Rodgers is someone who can pass the ball, so they absolutely will have a more balanced approach. But I actually think that'll just help Breece Hall's chances in the rushing department in this one. So also, this is a low game total that we're looking at, so I think it might be a defensive battle. You're just going to kind of try to play time of possession, give Breece the ball, and just try to keep the ball away, I guess, from Bo Nix and that Denver offense. But I like Breece Hall here over on 66.5 rushing yards. He's a dynamic running back that really hasn't had the breakout moment yet this season, but it's coming. What do you think, Tyler? How about my Jets this week against Denver?
Breece Lightning is coming for sure. That running game is just exciting with Braylon Allen as well. Definitely going to be a fun one to watch. And will good old Garrett Wilson ever break out?
Well, that's a really good point. It's a great question. But what Aaron Rodgers has basically said in press conferences is like, listen, the way teams are playing us, and actually I'm glad you brought that up because that kind of lends itself to Breece Hall's over this week, is that how teams are playing the Jets is they just basically are saying, you know what, we're taking Garrett Wilson away from you, see if you can beat us in another way. And the other way is getting it to some other wide receivers and giving the ball to Breece Hall. So they've got the weapons this year to be able to beat people in other ways. It'll be interesting to see how the Denver Broncos want to play it. If they want to take Garrett Wilson away, which they absolutely can do with one of the best cornerbacks in the game on their side. So that absolutely could be a factor in this one as well. So, yeah, but Garrett Wilson, his time's coming. I don't know when it's going to be, but
he has a really tough line of games coming up. Really good cornerbacks coming up to him. So could be a buy low situation for your fantasy.
Absolutely. That's a great point.
The season or so.
Yeah, go get him. Garrett Wilson, his time's coming. I know it is. And they're going to start scheme, because eventually teams are going to realize that they can't do that anymore because other players like Alan Lazard are beating them. So it's going to be interesting to see the way the Jets offense have evolved. And that was an encouraging sign that we saw against New England last week with them. So just as a Jets fan, I'm always happy to talk Jets, but Breece Hall, hopefully he has a nice game for us and helps us cash our entry on Underdog this week. Just to recap our picks for you guys, we're going Najee Harris higher than 63.5 rushing yards, Amari Cooper 50.5 receiving yards, Diontae Johnson 61.5 receiving yards, Brandon Aiyuk higher than 63.5 receiving yards, and Breece Hall higher than 66.5 rushing yards. We are putting all of those on an entry on Underdog and praying for the best. Hopefully we will be able to cash this out and give a randomly selected commenter some of those winnings. Again, to enter into our contest, like this video, subscribe to the channel, comment below. Also, if you have any absolute locks for this week, we want to hear from you in the comments. Let us know what your thinking is, or if you disagree with us, we want to hear from you too. We're all trying to help each other out and beat the books, and the best way to do that is to be as informed as possible, which is also why you should check out the LineStar app. LineStarApp.com will help you with your prop betting and also your DFS needs, so make sure to check it out at LineStarApp.com. And once again, if you don't have Underdog, download it. Use the promo code LineStar for that deposit match up to $1,000 in deposit match money. So take advantage of that deal because it's not going to last. And then you'll also get 1 free month of LineStar, so you can take it for a little test spin. Good luck in week 4. Let's go win some money. We'll see you next time.